Well, yeah, these are always tricky questions that I can't personally, for myself or for like helping other people.
Would it be different?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, what herbs do I tend to use quite a bit for people? Yeah, well, I mean, I think one herb that I think is indispensable to me is Glycyrrhiza glabra, or licorice root. This is an herb that obviously has a lot of traditional usage in Chinese medicine, but also in Western herbalism and other traditions as well, because it's just a super useful herb. In Chinese medicine, they say it harmonizes a formula. And a lot of herbalists, I hear a lot of herbalists say, oh, it's because it tastes good. You know, it makes a formula, some herbs that don't taste good, it makes it taste a little better. Therefore, it harmonizes it. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I also think one of the reasons it harmonizes an herbal formula is because it's moistening. And most herbs tend to be drying in terms of their moisture energetic. So that's one. I use licorice a lot. It's a really, really valuable herb in the way it operates on the immune system, the way it has, you know, some say it has some adaptogenic qualities. That's debatable amongst herbalists, but it does seem to have some effects on the adrenals and cortisol and some immunoregulatory aspects. And I think in the modern world, with the prevalence of autoimmunity type patterns, licorice I think is a really, really useful herb. That's also why I really love Gotu kola, Centella asiatica. This is a really fantastic herb. I really got actually into Gotu kola when I was here at Bastyr. It was one of the herbs I did one of my monographs on when I was in the herbal science program. So I got really into Gotu kola a long time ago and was drinking copious quantities of it in tea form and taking the tincture, and mainly for the nootropic effects, for the cognitive effects, clarifying the mind, the senses, memory, things like that, just mental focus and cognition. I personally love this herb myself quite a bit, but in the recent years, using it a lot more for its influence on connective tissue and its effects on inflammatory pathways and the immune system as well, as kind of this immunoregulating effect for people that have high tendency towards allergy, atopic conditions, autoimmune conditions. Very good for like a lot of heat signs, heat, red, hot, irritated mucosa, skin, tissue, things like that. Really like a Gotu kola there. I love blue vervain. That would be Verbena hastata as a nervine. It's one of my go-to nervines. And, you know, there's a lot of herbs one could choose here. Skullcap's fantastic. Chamomile, you know, chamomile is one of those herbs that people are like, oh, well, chamomile, like, oh, the celestial seasonings chamomile. It's like, no, make chamomile strong. Make a really strong tea of chamomile. And it's like, whoa, like you could really, it's quite bitter, and it's quite strong if you make it strong. But I really love blue vervain. I can actually see it right through the gazebo here. It's in flower, and I really love blue vervain as a nervine relaxant. I just think it's really suitable for a lot of people in the modern world that are just anxious and stressed and overwhelmed and yet exhausted at the same time. There's a way that verbena acts on the nervous system that I personally really, really like myself, and I've just seen it help a lot of people. It also has some really interesting specific indications that I think make it really appropriate for the modern human. And along those lines too, I would say I really appreciate the medicinal virtue of milky oat seed. That would be Avena sativa. Now that's a very specific one because, and I think this is one thing I notice a lot of folks make maybe a little bit of an error with milky oats, because I see it in a lot of teas. And that's okay, but people oftentimes will talk about those teas as being very rejuvenative for the nervous system because it has those milky oat seeds in it. And that's unfortunately not really the case. So the thing with milky oat seed is that in order for it to be very nourishing and building, or what we might think of as tropho-restorative to the nervous system, it has to be tinctured fresh. So on the oat plant, you take the seed and you squeeze it, and a milky white latex will come out of the seed. That's when you want to pick it, and then you want to tincture it fresh once it's dried, a lot of that trophorestorative effect for the nervous system is not really quite there. Now, that's not to say that the milky oat seed isn't like oat grass that's just full of minerals and very nutritive and very good in that way, we might think of as a nutritive tonic for the body. You might combine with other things like alfalfa or red raspberry, kind of your typical nutritive herbs, nettle leaf, things like that. But the milky seed of Avena sativa tinctured fresh, I think it's one of the best remedies for the nervous system. I use it a lot. I'm not the kind of herbalist that thinks like everybody should take this herb because everybody, I don't really like hype. But man, milky oat seed is one of those ones where I really think a lot of people living in the modern world can benefit from. It's not super strong in the sense of it being really hot or really cold or super moistening or super drying. It's very temperate. It's not super sedative and going to make you tired during the day or groggy when you wake up in the morning. It's like food for your nerves. And that is, I think it's one of the greatest herbal remedies. I love it and use it a lot and have given it to a lot of people and seen it really help folks that their nervous system is just exhausted, burned out, what the old doctors would call neurasthenia. It's kind of that nervous burnout, nervous exhaustion. So those are some of my favorite herbs, some of the ones that always come to my mind as ones that I use, I guess, both personally, but I also tend to administer them a lot as well.